What's going on, my fellow Jedi and Padawans? Welcome back to another Jedi gaming video. Thank you guys so much for coming back to the channel, and if you guys are new, welcome. We had a banger week with the Edge of Fate reveal. We got so much coming out in Destiny 2 over the next year or so, and I am super pumped for it, especially for Renegades with that Star Wars aesthetic. But we also got the Rite of the Nine, a new way where we can get some reprised dungeon weapons from the Prophecy, from Spire of the Watcher, as well as Ghosts of the Deep, with a rotating style of these dungeons. This week we have the Spire of the Watcher, and then we'll get the other two as we progress through the rest of the episode. Heresy here, so I wanted to cover the god rolls that you should be looking for the weapons for these three dungeons. In this video here, we're going to cover the Spire of the Watcher, since you will have a couple days still to farm it and get yourself those beautiful shiny adept weapons, which are super rare. Or if you're just looking for the shiny versions, getting yourself some double perks on these. We're going to cover PvE, PvP for 4 weapons, this one for the Spire of the Watcher, like I said. But first, we're going to start out with the origin traits that these 4 weapons are going to have. So first off, we got text balance stock as our first one. Damaging targets while firing from the hip, increase handling, reload, and movement speed while ADSing. And then we got a new origin trait called Gravity Well. Reloading this weapon automatically gathers nearby ammo. So this is a pretty good little set of perks. I do really like the Gravity one, especially on something like our heavy ammo, as well as something like the Wilderflight. We're going to start out by going encounter by encounter. So the first encounter, we can get the long arm, which is a high aggressive frame scout rifle that is arc burn, and the Terminus Horizon, which is also an arc burn, but it is a high impact LMG. So the long arm will be first. Going over PvP, PvE, I'm going to cover about 2 minutes for each of these weapons. So starting us out in PvP for this long arm here, we're going to go with accurized rounds as our magazine. This will give us +10 in range, helping us to hit those targets at the farther distance, and it just feels the best in this magazine column. Now we got 2 options in the third column, in my opinion, for PvP. We got Lone Wolf as our first one, so lightly improves the aim assist ADS speed, as well as airborne effectiveness, increases these effect when there's no nearby allies. Definitely a big staple in the PvP game. My second option, since we got the text balance stock as well, which helps us with hip fire, we're going to go with hip fire grip. Also increases the accuracy, stability, and precision hit targeting when firing from the hip, so you can use this thing and absolutely dap up guardians when firing from the hip if you have this on with the text balance stock origin trait as well. Last but not least, in the fourth column for PvP, we got 3 different options for you. Precision instrument as our first one, dealing sustained damage, increases precision damage. We also have keep away, increases reload, range, and accuracy when no targets are in close proximity. This is probably my favorite, no matter if you go with that Lone Wolf or the hip fire grip. And last but not least, we got explosive payload. Projectiles create an AoE detonation impact. Again, a very good option. Would definitely go with keep away probably as your number 1, with precision instrument and explosive payload kind of as number 2 options. Precision instrument if you're hitting your headshots, if you're hitting damage consistently, very good. Explosive payload is definitely for the more like well-rounded. You can use it really in any situation, but pairing that with Lone Wolf hip fire grip, totally up to you and your gameplay style. Lone Wolf is probably a little bit more universal, but hip fire grip does feel very good on this as well. Now for the PvE side of this long arm, for our magazines, I would either go with appended mag, so you get +2 in your magazine size, or tactical mag, probably my number 1 choice. We get +1 to magazine, +10 to reload, and +5 to stability. Totally up to you to pick between these two. I personally like tactical mag. In the third column, I'm going to go with 2 options for you. The first one is recycled energy. Reloading after defeating targets grants ability energy for your least charged ability, so super nice if you're looking to do some ad clear potential with this, keeping enemies at bay and getting energy back so you can spam your abilities. Your second option is subsistence. In my opinion, defeating targets partially refills the magazine from reserve, so kind of the same concept. As long as you're getting defeats with this, you can basically keep it up infinitely. Fourth column for this long strong arm for PvE, I'm going to go with Rolling Storm as one of our options. Final Blows grant us Bolt Charge. Bolt Charge is absolutely disgusting. Well amplified, Final Blows grant additional Bolt Charge. It is definitely one of the best arc verbs that we've got in the game. Adding to the potential of this for an odd clear weapon on those rank and file enemies, we got ourselves Dragonfly. Precision kills create an elemental damage explosion, so it's going to be a nice big arc explosion to help us do damage on those other enemies in a nearby area. Last but not least, you could really go with Precision Instrument, so dealing damage increases precision damage. If you're doing it on something like a big boss or something like that, you can really stack up some damage and do a good amount of damage for a primary weapon here. Or Redirection, damaging rank and file combatants increases damage against more powerful ones, so minor combatants grant us a stack up to times 30. If you hit elites or higher rank combatants, it consumes up to 3 stacks, granting you a 33% damage bonus, so you can really use this in a multitude of ways as ad clear with something like that Dragonfly, or trying to do a little bit more damage on bosses, champions like that with Redirection or that Precision Instrument. Now also in the first encounter as well as the second encounter, we can get the Terminus Horizon, which is that heavy arc LMG, like I said, high impact frame. As for the PvP god roll on this, I personally think that there's only really kind of 1 or 2 different options, but for my magazine, I'm going with ricochet rounds because it's +5 to range, +10 to stability. Third column, 2 options in my personal opinion. First off, you got that Dragonfly, so precision kills creates an elemental damage explosion. Pretty nice because people do love to stack up in Destiny and really hug each other. Your other option in the third column is Eddy Current, temporarily increases your reload speed. More for the handling on this after sprinting or while amplified. This is improved when you are amplified, so you can switch on and off this weapon a little bit faster. Definitely what you're looking for in the PvP realm. Fourth column, your 2 options are high impact reserves. Rounds at the end of the magazine deal more damage, so this is nice because you're not getting really a full magazine anyways when you're picking up heavy, unless you're never dying and just stacking it up. While your other option is Killing Tally, so kills increase the weapon damage until it is stowed or reloaded, so you can get 3-4 kills sometimes with these LMGs, and on those last 2 or 3 you're going to be able to do a good amount of damage, 5, 10, and 15% depending on the stacks that you get on it. So that's kind of what I would go with, that either that Dragonfly with high impact reserves is probably the most consistent in my personal opinion, but you could also do that Dragonfly with Killing Tally, Eddy Current with either of them as well. Now as for the PvE side of things, we're going to go with a Pendant Mag as our magazine. +8 in that magazine just feels the best for me because you're not losing any of your reload speed like you would with Extended Mag. The third column is kind of interesting because they are all very good perks in my personal opinion, but for me, my top 3 are going to be Dragonfly, so you can use this as like an ad clear weapon a little bit more. Those precision kills are going to create those elemental explosions for us. Reconstruction is our second option. This weapon slowly reloads itself over time up to double its capacity. A very, very good option in my personal opinion. Last in the third column is Envious Arsenal, dealing damage with both other weapons before readying. This one refills it from reserves, so Reconstruction with Envious Assassin, they are both more, or Envious Arsenal I should say, they are both more for the DPS side of things, where Dragonfly is for the ad clear potential of the weapon. Fourth column, you got 3 really good options as well, with Jolting Feedback being one of them. Dealing repeated damage with this weapon inflicts jolt, while amplified jolt is applied faster, so this with Reconstruction is probably my favorite, just because you have over double the capacity inside of the magazine and you can apply jolt very, very quickly on those enemies. Your second option is Precision Instrument, so dealing sustained damage increases precision damage, so again, both Reconstruction is going to be very good with this option, and you can really do a good amount of damage with Precision Instrument on things that have big crits like ogres, stuff like that. Last but not least, you could go with Target Lock, I believe, because dealing damage, the longer you do the damage, I should say, it gives you higher damage on that target, if that makes sense. So successive hits are going to stack damage all the way up to 40%, which is really, really good in my personal opinion. You can do a good amount of damage with this, again, with something like Envious Arsenal or with that Reconstruction. Now in the final encounter, we can really get any of the weapons, but mainly these two with the Liminal Vigil and the Wilderflight. So first off, we got the Liminal Vigil, which is a stasis heavy burst sidearm firing that 2-round burst on those enemies. For PvP with this weapon, we're going to go with our magazine being ricochet rounds. We got +5 to range, +10 to stability, just helping us out in both of those categories. Third column, we got a couple options for you. Lone Wolf is your first one. It slightly improves aim assist, ADS, and airborne effectiveness. Increases these effects when there is no targets in the nearby proximity. Probably what the 5 out of 5 god roll would entail. Your other two options would be tap the trigger and perpetual motion. Tap the trigger grants a short period of increased stability and accuracy on initial trigger pull, so if you're needing help with that stability and bounce of this weapon, go with tap the trigger. That last one is perpetual motion. This weapon gains bonus stability, handling, and reload while the wielder is in motion. This can get procced up to 2 stacks and gives us 10 to stability, 10 to handling, 10 to reload for both of those stacks, so can stack up to +20 for each of those, again helping us to keep that stability, the bounce up and down a little bit better, plus you can switch on and off of this a little faster as well. Fourth column, we got some fun ones as well, pretty much all interchangeable in my personal opinion, with Lone Wolf being the one I would go with in the third column, but we got To the Pain. While this weapon is equipped, taking damage increases handling and aim assist until it is stowed. Taking more damage increases this effects. Probably my favorite go-to for this is the To Pain with the Lone Wolf combination. We also got a fun one with Desperado, so reloading after a precision final blow increases your rate of fire, and with this being a heavy burst, it already hits very hard, and if you get Desperado to proc, it's gonna get that TTK to really go through the roof because it fires really fast. And your last one is the rangefinder. Aiming this weapon increases its effective range and zoom magnification, increases projectile velocity for rocket, grenade launchers, as well as bows. So this is basically going to allow us to hit enemies from a little bit farther, but I think the heavy bursts kind of have enough of that range already for PvE, or I should say PvP, so I like To the Pain or Desperado a little bit better, with To the Pain, Lone Wolf probably being my 5 out of 5. As for the PvE side of this weapon, I'm going to go with a Pendant Mag as our magazine. +4 to the magazine feels the best for me in my personal opinion. As for our two traits that we got inside of the third column, the first one is Headstone. Precision final blows spawn that stasis crystal at the victim's location. Definitely what I like to go with on this weapon, especially because of one of the options we have in the fourth column, with the other one being Attrition Orbs. Dealing sustained damage creates orbs of power, and we love orbs of power in Destiny 2. Use it for a bunch of different reasons, getting our supers back, getting our abilities back, as well as sometimes even getting the ability to do extra damage with weapons. So definitely a good second choice in this column, but for me, Headstone is better. In the fourth column, the combination of this Rhyme Stealer right here, destroying stasis crystals or defeating a frozen target with this weapon grants you frost armor. That's why I love the combination of Headstone with Rhyme Stealer, definitely being my 5 out of 5 for this weapon. Within my personal opinion, your second choice you could go with is Desperate Measures. So weapon final blows grant damage bonus, melee and grenade final blows grant a larger bonus stack that can go up to a lot of damage. In my personal opinion, it's about 30%, which is really good on this heavy burst weapon, so definitely up to you and your gameplay style, but Headstone with Rhyme Stealer is my 5 out of 5 for the PvE of this Liminal Vigil. Last but certainly not least, for these weapons for our Spire of the Watcher, we got ourselves Wilderflight, which is a double fire, hard-hitting grenade launcher that is void burn. So it is pretty solid in my opinion for the PvE realm for sure, and if you like these kinds of things for the PvP, you could also use it for that. So we're gonna start out PvP for y'all with the rounds in this, or the magazine I should say, being high velocity rounds, because we get reload speed on it, +7 velocity just feels right, because everything else kind of tanks the blast radius, and we want the blast radius to be as high as possible in my personal opinion for the Crucible. Third column, really the only option in my personal opinion is Slide Shot. This is really good in both PvP as well as PvE, but sliding around partially refills the magazine from the reserves, temporarily boosts our range and stability as well, so this thing feels really good with this in my opinion. Your other option option is reverberation. Final blows with this weapon increase the size of its detonation for a short period of time, so the blast radius goes up to 100, and you can hit definitely a couple more people, or I should say a wider range of people, because like I said, Crucible wise, people love to camp and hang out together. Same kind of concept in the fourth column for PvP. I'm not really a big fan of these grenade launchers, definitely more of an AoE kind of grenade launcher boy for the PvP, but I really don't use grenade launchers at all. But fourth column, we got Vorpal Weapon and Frenzy. Frenzy, being in combat for an extended period of time, gives us increased damage handling and reload until we are out of combat. Definitely very easy to get procced inside of the Crucible, and very, very good in my personal opinion, with that 15% damage increase and 100 to handling and 100 to reload. Vorpal Weapon on this is more for if you're going up against those supers with your Guardians, just something like going into a bubble, going against a Titan that's running around with their shields throwing it around, or like one of those hunters using Spectral Blade, but we get a 20% damage increase against those Guardians in their supers, so a little bit more niche with Vorpal. That's why I would probably go with Frenzy and Slide Shot as my 5 out of 5 for the Crucible. Now, as for the PvE side of this thing, I do really like it for a couple different options. For the magazine as well, we got two options with disorienting grenades, so they detonate and disorient the enemy. Very, very good in my opinion. Definitely one of the best things to keep in that high endgame content, keeping some of those stronger enemies at bay while you do damage on them. Your other option is spike grenades, so you get increased stability with this, plus direct impacts from it also increase its damage, so it's kind of a dual threat grenade launcher in my opinion, depending on if you want to disorient enemies and do damage with other weapons, or using this as like your main damage weapon kind of thing as a special weapon with spike grenades. Now, we got some pretty fun rolls on this in my personal opinion for the PvE realm. If you're looking for kind of a jack of all trades version, you could go with Repulsor Brace with destabilizing rounds, but third column Repulsor Brace, defeating those void debuff targets, grants us overshield, hence why we would be using disabling rounds as well. Your second option, and more for if you're using it no matter what, for damage or for doing the ad clear side of it, Slide Shot. Sliding around partially refills the magazine, temporarily boosts your range and stability, so you can basically slide around consistently and fire this just back to back to back to back. Very good for, like I said, either the ad clear side or damage side of this weapon. Your other option, which is very interesting in my personal opinion, is that Envious Arsenal, because we do have bait and switch on this, so dealing damage with our other two weapons before readying this one refills it from reserves, so you can have some pretty crazy damage rotations with all of these weapons, or I should say with this weapon, using it as a DPS weapon with something like this with rockets, and then like a very good kinetic weapon. You can get some really crazy damage rotations going on. Now, as for the fourth column, like I said, we got destabilizing rounds. This is what I would pair with Repulsor Brace. Defeating targets creates a void burst. Hitting those void bursts on other targets creates volatile rounds for you and makes those targets volatile, so really easy for us to get that overshield to proc with Repulsor Brace. You also could go with Vorpal Weapon or Frenzy on this. I think Vorpal Weapon is pretty solid in my opinion, because you can do damage to those mini bosses, and vehicles with this. It is very, very good for the PvE realm, giving us 15% damage increase against those enemies. This could be used with Envious Arsenal or that Slide Shot. But I think the 5 out of 5 for me, and the one that I am most interested to get, is that Spike Grenade with Envious Arsenal and Bait and Switch here. So dealing damage with all equipped weapons for a short period of time gives this a damage boost, pairs very, very well with Envious Arsenal, like I said, and you can get some really crazy damage rotations going on with a grenade launcher or a rocket launcher in your heavy slot that also has the combination of Envious Arsenal with Bait and Switch and then a really good kinetic. You can absolutely juice the damage on those bosses, mini bosses, stuff like that you are just sitting there and absolutely just going crazy with this. So we have really, really good options with all of these weapons. I am definitely most excited about that Rime Stealer, as well as the Headstone Luminal Vigil, as well as this Wilderflight here with Envious Arsenal and Bait and Switch. Those are probably the two that I am most excited about. There's a lot of good LMGs in the game, especially in the ARC version, and I've never been one to really like scout rifles in this game, game, especially stuff like the long arm, but they all got really good potentials, and we got a bunch of different weapon versions with the adept versions, normal versions, and the shiny versions with the Rite of the Nine. So get in there and start farming these out. We're going to put out videos as well for the Ghost of the Deep and Prophecy that are going to be coming out in the coming weeks, so be on the lookout for those. Again, I appreciate you guys for always coming back to the channel, checking it out, leaving your likes, your comments, everything like that. Also, if you don't mind, hit that bell and subscribe. Helps me out, helps the channel out. Plus, you guys will get notifications for all the videos and live streams that we do on the channel here. So once again, appreciate all you guys. Hopefully you guys have a banger Sunday and really get into these Rite of the Nine dungeons because they are quite fun. I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.